get started today. I want to first thank everybody for joining us on your busy day. And so, yeah, today we're going to be talking about our Color 247 line. So it's not really, I would say, like a new line. We've had it for quite a few years, but we did get some new products in that is going to be added to that lineup. And so, yeah, we will be talking about that. Throughout today's webinar, I will be, not only talk about those products, but I'll probably, put in a little bit of like tips and tricks, some misconceptions I've seen when using this type of product. And so, yeah, let's start from there. And so here is kind of like an explanation as far as, our Color 247 lineup. The Color 247 cameras, those are cameras that are made to see exactly what it sounds like, 24/7 color. So you're seeing color 24 hours a day, whereas our, the cameras that have IR, those will actually click. When the IR clicks on, they'll be in black and white. And so this one, they will, be in color. And the way it does that is that the actual sensor that's inside the camera are bigger sensor allows it to gather more light. And so every one of those pixels that you see that make up the image is going to have a color, and that's one of the advantages we have on this. And so in turn, that gives you like a lower lux rating compared to our low lux cameras, compared to our standard cameras. And so it's able to be in color and get you a brighter image throughout the night. And so there are advantages to having a color that's a Color 247 type of camera. And those advantages will be the details you're able to get. Details meaning that if you're using an IR camera, meaning it's going to be in black and white, you will lose out on a lot of details. So let's say we see like a vehicle or a person in that area. If it's in black and white, you're not really able to tell what color is the vehicle, or some identification factors such as what is the person wearing, what color are their outfits, kind of stuff like that. That would come in handy if you're needing to get footage for the police or whatever. And so not all is fine and dandy with the 24/7 cameras. There are some negatives. But as long as you kind of work your way around it, you know what to look for, then you can kind of alleviate that. So yeah, pardon my rough drawing right here, but here is what we're looking at. So if we're using the 24/7 cameras, there must be some kind of minimal lighting. It doesn't need to be much because, we do have that larger sensor, and it does have built-in lights on the camera. So if we're looking at the camera itself, they are located right there. You'll see it actually has a white LED that is going to be able to be shining out. But the reason why I call this as a negative is those white LEDs, they only have a limited range. So if we say we have a person that's like standing right here in this area, then of course you should be able to light them up pretty well and get a pretty decent image. If we have them standing really far away or to the limits of where that light is able to reach, then you will notice some diminishing details that may not be able to be noticed. Yeah, so this does have the built-in white light. You don't need to have that white light on. So yeah, if there is, I would say enough lighting, then you should be able to see without having those lights on. From my experience, I would say like a majority of them, the end users, they really don't want to have these lights on because it kind of stands out. So to each their own, you can have the light on or off. And so, yeah, the models that we've got coming that have arrived, that are new models from our 24/7 lineup, are going to be these three models right here. And in my upcoming slides, I will be talking about those one at a time. So here's the first one. So this one is the 3C82W. We do notice at the end, we do have the MDAL. And so what we know, or basically what this camera is, it's an 8-megapixel camera. So 8 megapixel equals your 4K. So it's going to be a really good resolution. One key feature that it has is that this camera that does have your built-in mic, it does have your built-in speaker. So you are able to do your audible alerts. You also have features such as your active deterrence. Active deterrence meaning that if it detects any person or object, it's able to do two things. One is going to be flashing a light, either with the built-in LED like a strobe. You can actually set how the light works. And also you do get a audible alert coming from the speaker. It does have pre-programmed messages, or you can set it to a custom message or a siren. And so, yeah, with this camera, you are able to do two-way audio because it does have that microphone, it does have that speaker, whereas a lot of our other cameras just have the built-in mics, so you're only able to hear what's going on, you can't talk back. And so let's talk about the key feature for this camera, and that's going to be the active deterrence. So you'll notice kind of on the bottom here, we do have that speaker that's located there. The microphone is right here on top that's what this dot right here is. And so the specs on the speaker itself is this is a 1.5 watt speaker at 95 decibels. So it is able to get a pretty good amount of sound coming out of that. And so there are different ways to kind of customize it. So right here, I've got two screenshots that are from the web interface on the camera. And so if we look at the audible alarm, that's basically your audible output that's coming out of the speaker. You are able to select the type. And here is the list of the pre-programmed messages that are in the camera. Granted, if you don't like any of these messages, you can upload your own WAV file to the camera and have that be played. And so, yeah, that's going to be the audible part. Here, right, is going to be the actual white light part. So under the flashing alarm light output, you can go in there and first set the duration. How long do you want that light to be on whenever it detects your motion or whatever triggers the light to come on? And also, how do you want it to work? So if we set it for normally on, that will stay solid. It's a solid light for, in this case, 15 seconds, which is what we set the duration for. We do have what is called low frequency, so it blinks slower. Medium is it blinks a little bit faster, and then your high frequency is it's blinking as fast as it can, which is pretty much like a strobe light. And so there are reasons why you'd want to have the light come on. One reason would be that, when the light is flashing or when the light is on, it gets the people's attention. One is it makes them look up at the light, kind of, curiosity. They look up and say, hey, what's that light from? And you get a good shot of their face. Second is, for deterrence issues. So if somebody sees something strobing, then they would probably want to run away or walk off from that area. And so these two features, these audible and these visual alerts do help. And that's what is your active deterrence feature. And so if we're wanting to turn those features on, so the previous screenshots, those were for, the different options for that. And so this is what you would do to actually enable it. So first thing is go into your detection method of choice. So we do have your motion detection, we do have your intrusion, your line crossing. But if you go under your linkage method, so the first one is going to be like area settings. That's where you select the area, draw your box. Arming schedule is when you want the detection method to be in effect. And then the third is going to be the linkage method, and that's where we are turning on the active deterrence feature. And you will notice right here that we do have your flashing alarm, we do have your audible warning. You don't have to have them both on at the same time. So if you just want one but not the other, you can just put a check mark there, click save, and that will work for that detection. And so, yeah, that's the way to have your active deterrence turned on. So first thing, select how the settings for the actual audible for your light. And then this is the part where you are turning it on or off. All right, so another feature with it is I was talking about the actual two-way audio. And so there are, here are the ways that you would actually do it. So if you're in the app, so in this case, it's going to be the LTS Connect app. You will note that if you just have your built-in mic on the camera, then yeah, you just click on the speaker icon right here, and that will broadcast whatever sound is being picked up. If we are wanting to do two-way audio, you will notice that we do have this icon right here with the microphone. So once you click on that, you'll be able to kind of talk into your phone if the app is on your phone or whatever device, tablet, whatever, and kind of talk to whoever's at the camera. You could do the same thing if we're on your NVMS v3, which is our client software for the computer. And so what that is, once you're in your main view, you load up the actual camera, right click on the actual video, and you will notice that we do have your start two-way audio option here. If you're wanting to do your two-way audio, if you're just wanting to hear the sound, then just click on your audio on and you are good to go. So a little, kind of tip and trick on these types of devices. All right, so let's talk about the next camera that's new to our 24/7 lineup, and that is going to be this model, the 7C82. And so you will notice that, it is a dome, and the main difference is that instead of having IR, we do have the built-in white lights that are able to illuminate the area. But like I said, you do not need to use these lights to be able to see in color. So yeah, you can have those on or off. One main thing that we have for this one is that we do have built-in microphones, which are located right here on the top. And so that will come in handy. And also this camera is an 8 megapixel, so you are getting that nice 4K image out of it. Here is another one. Here is a first for our 24/7 type of cameras. This is our 7C43. And so this is a first because this is the first time that LTS has gotten a 24/7 color that has your varifocal, meaning that it's able to zoom in and out. And so this is a 4 megapixel camera. We do have those same LED lights if you choose to use those. And so this one is going to be able to do your 2.8 to 12 millimeters. So basically a 4x optical zoom. And with all these, I would say with this camera right here is able to do 131 feet of white light range. So if you look in our spec sheets, there is actually going to be basically two different types. One is going to say like 30 meters, which is 98 feet of light range. The other one's going to be your 40 meters, which is 131. So in this instance, this one is your 131 feet of maximum range that these lights are able to light up your area. All right, so since we're talking about your varifocal cameras, let's give you another tip and trick. And that's going to be zooming in and out on the app. It's a, I would say, pretty common misconception. A lot of people, they're saying that, oh yeah, if we want to zoom in using this type of camera, all they do is kind of pinch to zoom on that image, or they just click on this magnifying glass right there. But that is only for a digital zoom. So you may notice that when you're trying to zoom in that way, the image does get a lot more pixelated the more you zoom in. And so the I would say the correct way is going to be going right here. So you will see this icon that is right here, and we are going to be clicking on this. Yeah, some people say it's a lollipop, but it's a PTZ control button. This is actually for the joystick that they have. But anyways, click on that, and then you will be seeing these three options. By default, once you click on this, you will be under pan and tilt. We are going to be clicking on more, and then click on the tree icon, which is right here, and that gives you the zoom in, zoom out. This will actually utilize the actual motorized zoom of the camera itself. All right, so next on the lineup is going to be introduction of another style of our 24/7 cameras, which we will be calling the hybrid illumination, or in other words, it's just called your dual lighting in layman terms. All right, so what is hybrid illumination? So that is the one camera. So we've got one physical camera, and that camera is able to actually do both IR and white light. So remember, IR is going to be your black and white image, and then of course your white light is your color image. And so with these cameras, we do only have one set of LEDs. So as you can see in this image right here, you see like two LEDs, and those two LEDs themselves, they will be used for both IR and white light. So it's not separate LEDs for like, it's not like one for IR and one for white light. Both of them will be able to have two modes. And to show that, and it's going to be this right here. So here I have the same camera. So we've got one image, which is utilizing your IR. And then here we have the exact same two bulbs shooting out your white light. And so, yeah, just to show that it's not that I'm not making this up, I did take apart some of these cameras, and here we've got it. Here is the actual board for your illumination. We do note and see that we do have your two surface mount LEDs. And so that you can see that one LED is able to do your two spectrums of light. And so since we do have the IR mode for these cameras, then of course there's got to be a IR filter, which yes, these cameras do have that. These cameras, when you set them up into IR mode, there is an IR switch that is going to be activated, which lets you see in black and white utilizing those IR lights. And same thing here, I did take a picture of those. And you will note that we do see the actual IR switch right here and right here. And those are the actual cameras though that this picture is taken from. And so, yeah, these do have your IR switches, which in turn, puts that filter in and out. And so, yes, these are true dual mode type of cameras with your true dual mode type of options here. All right, so here are the models that have your hybrid illumination. So we do have 3 models, and I will be talking about that in the upcoming slides. So here are your model numbers, and let's keep going. So these cameras, they do feature a bunch of kind of very useful items. So the first thing is going to be your AI. We do have your human and vehicle filtering on those. There are options for your face capture. And also with this latest generation, we are able to upset up to 512 gigabyte SD cards. And so that will be used for if you're trying to run the camera either standalone, then you can record to the card by itself, or if you want to use a feature like ANR, which is your auto network replenishment, then you can utilize your SD card for that. And with all of these cameras here that support your hybrid illumination, they will have your longer distance, which is your 131 feet lighting with that white light. And this is not only with the white light, it also is for your IR section also. So IR or your white light is going to be 131 feet max distance that the light can reach. All right, so here's the first one of the lineup, which is our 3C42. If you look at the model numbers, you may notice that, hey, 3C42, that does seem very familiar. And yes, it is. The only difference that we have as far as your hybrid illumination is the addition of the I in the model number. So if you see the I, then it does have your dual modes. If not, then it's only going to be in color. And so here are the spec comparisons. So we do have, here's the current outgoing model. And you will notice that, we are looking the actual sensor size compared to this hybrid model is going to be the same sensor size. And if you're looking at the lux rating on that, we are looking at the same thing. So 0.0005 at an f-stop 1.0. And so if we keep kind of going down, we will notice that the standard 3C, it is only rated at 30 meters or 98 feet for your white light, whereas the new model, it is rated at 40 meters, which is your 131 feet. And we do see right here that we do have your IR and your white light features. And so, yeah, if you're looking at it specs wise, they are going to be pretty much equivalent, except we do have the addition of your IR for this style camera. And so there is also a size difference too. So here is our current outgoing 3C42, and then here is the new one. You will notice that it is a lot smaller as far as the packaging size, but we are getting the same features and also the better illumination. And with that being said, of course, if it's bigger in size, then we are going to be using a larger junction box on the older model versus the newer one. This new one actually uses the same junction box as our like a 33 series, so like 3342, 3382, and so on. And so, yeah, if you usually use those types of cameras and you've got some, at your office or whatever, then yeah, you can use those same junction boxes without any issues. All right, so next one on the lineup is going to be the 7C42. So that is going to be a 4-megapixel camera. We do see that we do have these white lights on here. We do have the built-in microphones on top. And so, yeah, here are the features for those. So we do see that, it does have the same sensor size, the same larger sensor size. We do have your same lux rating. And so, yeah, all the information such as your IR, the IR distance is going to be the same as the previous camera. The difference I would like to say is that this camera does have your line in, line out. So this is a line level input output. So if you're wanting to do an external speaker or an external mic, you can utilize that. But since this is line level, you will need to find a power source to actually amplify the sound. Also, we do have alarm input outputs on that. So that is available if you choose to utilize that. Here is the third camera from our hybrid lineup. And this is a mini bullet. And so 4-megapixel, we still have the hybrid illumination. So, your dual mode LEDs. And so we will see here that, yeah, same specs across the line, same 131 feet distance for that lighting. And so here's kind of like the options that we've got. So these are pretty standard, or if you've played around with this product line or platinum products cameras before, that this may be this, or not may, but this is very familiar to y'all. And so we will notice that, on this page, we do see all like the video setting or image settings. I would like to point out though, default out of the box, this is going to be exposure time of 1/12, meaning that it is blinking 12 frames per second. If you do want to utilize your WDR on that, we will need to set that to 1/30, meaning the camera is blinking 30 frames in 1 second. And so, yeah, that will be needing to be utilized if you're wanting to do your WDR. Is there a difference if we change it? Well, think about it this way. If it's blinking less times in that 1 second, then of course, the image sensor is able to absorb more light. More light equals a brighter image. So with this one being 1/30, you will see a slight difference as far as brightness of the image. But then again, you are also able to kind of adjust that further when you're going into adjusting the brightness and everything in these other settings here. All right, so with this new mode, since we do have the hybrid illumination, then where are the settings for that? And yeah, that is right here under your light brightness controls. And so once you click and see that drop-down menu, so yeah, we've got the light supplemental mode, lightness brightening controls. You will see that we do have one, which is going to be smart. Let me talk about that after I talk about the other two. So white supplemental light is exactly like it sounds. It turns on the white light. You don't have to have it on. If you don't want those on, they just put it on off. If you want to do IR, that's going to be your IR supplement light. And let's go back to smart. And so with the smart, that is only available with these hybrid cameras. And what that does is the camera actually will be in IR mode, meaning it's going to be in black and white. And then whenever it detects any action, like a person walking by or whatever, then it will click into your color mode. And then once it clicks into the color mode after a while, then it will click back into your black and white mode. And so, yeah, if you're in an area that really doesn't have that much lighting, so you have to utilize your IR, then that is, what you use that for. And then whenever you have a person coming up, you kind of want to get that extra detail. So that's when it clicks into that white light, which is able to light up the area. You get a good color image of the person or the vehicle. And then once the action is gone, clicks back into your black and white mode. And so let's talk about AI features. Yeah, so if you've looked at a lot of our cameras lately, we do have the same features on this, meaning that it does have your human vehicle filtering. So with those, you would actually go into your detection methods, so your motion detection, line crossing, intrusion, or whatever you want to use. And you may notice that you just draw the area like you usually do. And then under target detection, it will list human or vehicle. And so that's just like filtering. So if you don't want to get too many false alarms, then you are able to utilize this feature, and that kind of helps it out. So you're not searching through kind of hours and hours of footage trying to find the correct one under playback. All right. So since these cameras, they do have your white light, and so we were talking about that smart mode where that light does come on to give you that color image. I would like to note that this is not an active deterrence feature. And to illustrate that, we are in the linkage method. Remember in our previous screens, we were talking about if you have active deterrence, you will see options here that list your flashing light and your audible warning. And so, yeah, you will see that for these hybrid illumination cameras, we do not have those options here. So that's why it is not considered an active deterrence camera. I guess you can say it's more of like, like those floodlights that people have in their house where it's motion activated, somebody walks into the area, it turns on the light. So yeah, you can kind of consider it similar to that with when you're using this feature here. All right, so to conclude with our hybrid illumination cameras, I would say the pros and cons, it eliminates the need to have different cameras in stock. Because a lot of times, you kind of need to think about, hey, is there enough lighting in this area to be utilizing a camera that does your color at night? Like I said, you really don't need to be using the white lights that are built into the cameras, but if you don't want to use that light, then hey, you do need to think about, is there enough lighting in that area to actually give you that color image? So if using these hybrid cameras, hey, you don't really need to think about it. Just pick up one camera, you're good to go, because it does have your IR to fall back on if you don't, if the area is kind of too dark and you don't want to use that white light that's built into the camera. So yeah, one camera, you're good to go. So I would say that helps where you don't need to have too many different cameras in stock or be utilizing many different models. And so that, of course, helps with the aesthetics when you're mounting cameras at location. You're not looking at different cameras and people are thinking, hey, how come this camera looks different than another one? And so that helps with aesthetics. And so with these cameras, you do have you can easily change the actual mode. You either log into the camera, select the mode you want, and be done. Or if you go into our recorders, currently only the 87D models will have that option in the recorder where you can kind of change the actual mode of it. New firmware will be coming out for other models that will let you do that from the recorder side. And so, yeah, you can easily change the mode for either your IR or your color. And then the last is going to be that these cameras, they still have, or they do have the actual latest AIs that you see on any of our other cameras that we carry. All right, let's kind of change it up. We do have one other new camera. So this is going to be another option that is available. And with that, this is going to be the camera that we have. It is going to be the 3D82W 28SDA-SL. So this is an 8 megapixel camera, so you got that 4K image. This one is strictly IR. So it does utilize your IR lights. That's why we do have two lights on the front of this. One of them is going to be for IR. The other one is going to be for your white light. And so you may be asking, hey, how come it's got a white light? All right. And so, yeah, this camera does have your active deterrence, and that's what that white light is for. So if you do utilize your active deterrence, it will be able to flash that light, which is the white one. And since we do have active deterrence, this one does have your built-in speaker. So if you do want to do your siren, your pre-programmed message, your custom message, your two-way audio, then yes, this camera will let you do it. But yeah, it is going to be in IR, so black and white mode. And so, yeah, that is probably, let's see. Yeah, that's going to be it for here. Let's see if we've got any questions that you guys have asked. All right, so we've got a question. Can this camera be used indoors? Yeah, any of these cameras can be used indoor, outdoor. They do have the IP rating, so you can have it outdoors with no issues. You can have it indoors. And so, yeah, aesthetically, if it works in your situation, you can use these cameras. Next question. How could I turn light off if I'm using the camera indoor? So you've got two ways. So you just go into the camera, you'll see the day-night settings. I believe by default, it is going to be on automatic. So that means it utilizes your photo sensor that's on that camera. So if it gets too dark, it turns on the white light. So if you don't want that light on, just go to your day-night settings and set it to day mode. If you do set it to day mode, then it will stay in color. It doesn't utilize any of the illumination options there. Next one, configuration example to disable light. I believe we showed that screenshot earlier. So yeah, if you missed that, you can refer to the recording afterwards, and that will have the actual screenshot of the settings. Can you turn off active deterrence from the app? As far as I know, the active deterrence is not able to be done from the app. You would actually need to go into the actual camera itself to do that. Next one, share the webinar. Yeah, this is recorded. So yeah, it will be, it will be available for reviewing later on after the event. So yes, you can refer to our YouTube page or whatever, and you'll be able to see that. All right, and so next one, what is the highest frame rate per second? So that would actually have to do with, well, it's going to be different. So you can always check the spec sheets for that. But from, what we've had before, the 30 frames per second is going to be the ones for your 4 megapixel. If you're utilizing like an 8 megapixel camera, then that will be lower. I believe those are spec'd at 24 or 25 frames per second. When will these all be available? These are available now. So yeah, you will be able to, talk to your rep and be able to get information on these. And so, okay. I have pointed a few cameras at residential pool areas. At night shows a bright pool and the surrounding is pitch black. So on that one, you would need to kind of play around with the settings. So is the camera pointed up too high to where the light is reflecting off the soffit? If it is, then you would have an issue with that. Also, is how far is the distance between the actual pool to the camera? If you've got it too close, then maybe the light is reflecting off the water. That's why it's kind of blinding the area. But you can actually go into the setting. There's going to be a smart supplemental light setting in there that will probably help. You can also play with your gain controls, or if it is like, a little too, if you are having that issue, just try playing with the actual lighting. You can turn that off and see if you are getting a bright enough image with that. You can play with your exposure. So remember, I was talking about by default, it is going to be doing 12 frames per second. You can kind of play with that to kind of brighten up the image or darken the image. So combination of those settings will actually help in that regard. Next one, any improvement or impact with ghosting and details. So when you are doing when you talk about ghosting and everything, that is usually going to be talking about your frame per second. So if it is not refreshing quick enough, then that's where you would actually get that ghosting. So if you want to kind of improve that, then yes, you will just go into your settings, change that setting to something that is going to be a higher refresh rate. So like 1/30 or even higher than that, that would eliminate your ghosting issues. Next one, what do you recommend for putting your own message? Yeah, you can put your own message in there on those cameras. When you go into the option there, it will actually give you the specifications. So I believe it has to be in a WAV format. It needs to be mono, and it does have your frequency and size restraints that would need to be met in order for you to be able to use that message. Next question. What is the highest megapixel for PTZ cameras? The highest megapixel rating is going to be a 8 megapixel, but those will not have your 24/7 color. So yeah, those are going to be like IR only. Meaning, reason why is that your white light is only able to reach a certain amount of distance. So IR pretty much makes sense if you've got that higher zoom. And so yeah, that's why that's the issue for that one. So next one, will the camera be able to capture a quality image while the light is strobing? Yes. The reason being that the LED lights on there, they are, well, the nature of LEDs is that they are projected. It's not going to be a type of lighting that is scattered. So yeah, those bulbs themselves, they will be a projected light. And so it's going to be shooting forward. It's not going to be shooting out. So you wouldn't have any issues with it kind of blinding your image or washing it out. And one other thing, if you're using your hybrid cameras, remember the ones that will do your white light and your IR, whenever it's doing that changeover, the changeover is like half a second. So you wouldn't have an issue with the camera being blinded when it's switching the modes. Because usually on our other cameras, when you switch it from like day mode to night mode or vice versa, you do have that couple of seconds where you're not able to see what's going on. And so, yeah, these hybrid cameras, they don't have that issue. Next question, are these cameras ONVIF compliant? Yes, they are ONVIF compliant with profile S, G, and T. All right. Let's see, is it possible to make 24/7 cameras turn the light on when there is motion? Yeah, if you use the active deterrence cameras, yes, it will turn on those lights when there is motion. That's why it's got the 3 LEDs on the front. You've got the 2 that are for lighting up the area, 1 for your actual active deterrence. So yeah, those will be able to do it. And then if we're talking about your hybrid ones, then yeah, that's going to be the feature I was talking about, the smart lighting, where it turns it on and it's in color whenever it detects that motion. Another question, do they come in analog and IP? Yes, we currently do have the hybrid cameras in analog. That's the 2152. And so if you're needing that and need that kind of option in that regard, that one will have it. It's able to change the lighting modes. And also that camera does have your built-in mic. So if you're trying to add that in on one of our DVRs, then yes, you can utilize the actual built-in mic option. That way you're not needing to run a separate cable for your mic itself. But there are some stipulations. Not all recorders will work with that option. So yeah, check with your sales rep for kind of which ones will work, which ones will not work. But on, I would say a lot of our latest recorders, they do work as far as the built-in mic portion. All right, next question. 1752, what's the default white light setting? By default, I believe it is going to be on your white light. So yeah, you can go in there and turn it off. Just go into your OSD menu on the camera and you can disable that or enable that however you want it. Let's see, next one. Can all the camera light controls be formed on the NVR, or there's some that are camera web interface? Yeah, we talked about this earlier. So yeah, a lot of the light controls, so like whether you want it to be, whether you want the lights to be on or off at night, you can configure that. That's under your day-night settings. As far as the hybrid illumination, that is currently only available on the 87D with firmwares available or coming soon for the other recorders. So once those are available, then yes, you can change those options in the future. Next question, can we get a little more detail when we should change the exposure 1:30 or 1/12? Okay, yeah, we kind of touched up on that earlier. So 1/12, meaning that, 12 frames per second, meaning that it is blinking slower, meaning that you do get that brighter image. Because it's able to absorb more light before it actually, the shutter kind of blinks again. So if you're needing an area where you're needing a brighter image, then yes, 1/12 will get you that brighter image. The downside is that since it is refreshing slower, if you do have moments of fast motion, like cars driving by kind of fast, you may notice that ghosting effect happening. If that's the case, then yeah, just jack up the settings to 1/30 or higher, then that will alleviate those issues there. All right, next question. IP cameras should continue to record on the SD card whenever the network is disconnected. Yeah, it can do that. That is actually the ANR feature, the automatic network replenishment feature. And that is where you put an SD card into the actual camera itself. So if it does lose that connection, then yes, it will be recording on that SD card. And then once that connection is regained, then it will send the actual missing footage back to your recorder for it to kind of record back to your hard drive. But there are certain things that needs to be met, because let's say like you've got the camera plugged into a built-in PoE, then if your network is disconnected, that usually means that your power is out. If there's no power going to your recorder, that means no power is going to your camera. Then of course your camera's not powered on. If your camera's not powered on, then you're not going to get that footage recorded. So if you are on a if you're plugging into a built-in PoE, or if you're plugging into an external PoE, make sure that PoE or the recorder itself is plugged into a UPS of some sort. So if we have any issues where power outage or whatever, then it's still getting power to the camera. If you're getting power to the camera, then it's still recording. And so that feature kind of needs those prerequisites in order for it to work. Will it send a message or will the NVR beep? Well, if we were talking about the first option where there's no power, then no, it won't send out a notification if there's no power to the recorder. But if it's just a disconnection, then yeah, your recorder can send out a notification for that. Next question. Can I connect both power at the same time, PoE and 12 volts? Yes and no, depends on how you look at it. So by default, it will be powered up using your PoE if you've got it connected to PoE, but it's only going to take one source at a time. So if you are using PoE, then it's not going to be taking any power from your power connector side, which power connector meaning that 5521 barrel connector. So yeah, it won't be taking power from that side. Whether it's going to automatically change over that, I'm not too sure. You may want to check with like tech support on that. All right. So looks like that's it for all the questions that I see here.